first thing item up is a fine-free library.
Mayor, that item is on the agenda. We'd sent an informal staff report to the council about changing the library to be fine-free, and Amanda is here to answer any questions about that staff report. Mr. Pugh had asked that we put it on a work session just so council could get any questions they had answered. And so if you have questions, Amanda's here for that purpose.
Yep. You have questions, anybody?
I do not. You did a great job, Amanda.
Oh, thank you.
Made some great points, especially when you talk about our economically disadvantaged students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a burden.
So I don't have it in front of me for the moment, man. I mean, the way I understood it is the libraries that have tried this, they're not seeing any additional loss of items
No.
based on this.
In fact, what they're seeing is people bringing things back that they haven't brought back, because if you think about it, what we handle in the library is people come in, they find out they have a fine because they haven't brought items in. And then if they bring their items in, they think, okay, everything's cool. Well, then they still might have $30 or $40 in fines, depending on how long it is. So then they're like, well, I'm just going to keep my items and not bring them back in. So what they're actually seeing is people bringing their stuff back in and using the library now.
And then what about, I saw there was like a fee, I think it was like $25 or $35 for out-of-town
So
residents. How does that play in? Are people okay with that, or do they expect it?
I have a feeling that we'll probably have some people who are non-residents who will not appreciate that fee. However, basically, the city of Kennedale is paying for anybody to basically get a card right now. And that means that each resident is paying an average of $35 for library services. But those people are not paying $35 for library service. So the idea here is for the small number of people, and I think it will be a fairly small number of people who will actually want to continue using Kennedale Library and not their home library for some reason, they will be asked to pay unless they can get a tech share card or something. But there's not a whole lot of people who are probably going to fall into that narrow definition. But I think that given the circumstances of the city and how we're really kind of cash strapped, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now to kind of float other communities when we need to kind of recoup that revenue. So if they get a library card and then it's fine free, you know, they'll still have to pay for the items if they don't bring them back. But, you know, they're still getting the benefits of that as well in all of our programs and everything.
And if you had to guess, I know you said, I'm trying to find out, I'm still working on it.
It's okay.
You said you guys used a substantial amount of time negotiating or talking to people about, you think that offsets the amount of revenue that you're actually collecting?
Yes, I
Or
mean,
is it close, or?
when you consider that the library fines collected by the library, not only do you have a library staff person who's paid an hourly wage, who then has to deal with a person who's upset about their fine, who then escalates it to me, who's paid a different amount of money. And then once we finally collected the money, then it has to go to finance, or we have an entire finance department that has to process it. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to continue to do this fiscally. I mean, we're collecting maybe $2,000 a year, Lakita? Yes. Yeah, it's costing us way more than $2,000 to process those fines.
I guess that was my question.
Yeah,
If it's at least gonna wash out, it's not.
Yeah.
savings.
yeah, it probably should.
Are there any negatives?
I mean, I think the one negative people have seen is that people might hang on to their items a little bit longer. I don't really see that as a problem right now because we're space limited in the library. We're actually kind of running out of space for books. It's not a big deal if people keep the books a few days longer or whatever, because that frees up some space on our shelves. So I've thought this through a lot and talked to a lot of other directors, and I really haven't heard really any downsides, because we've asked each other, like, are you seeing problems? And they're like, no, this has been great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have questions?
Any other questions? All right, then we'll move on. Thank you.
Okay.
Discuss a potential,
Mayor, can we just, I guess I wouldn't have a problem moving forward with that. We can have a consensus discussion.
do you want it as an action item at the next?
I would like to see it unless one of the other council members has an opposition.
You put it on the action item for the next agenda?
We could do that either probably on the 26th 2nd, assuming we have a meeting on the 22nd and have it as an action item, although, okay.
All right, we'll open on there.
We're trying to keep that to a short agenda, but that wouldn't be an issue if you don't have any other major issues with it. And we can get the ordinance prepared.
All right, discussion of potential changes to the composition charge and meeting requirements of the Utility and Infrastructure Board.
Mayor, this item is on here because we talked about it at our last meeting, because as you made your board and commission appointments this year, we talked about various reasons for changing the composition and the structure and the charge to the Utility Infrastructure Board. And what we have provided in your packet today, not for action, but just for discussion, is a draft proposal of how we would change the current ordinance. The UIB was established in October of 2016. And essentially how we've modified that is to, the makeup and the draft you have in your packet would maintain the board at 7 members. It would assign, though, 2 seats. You would appoint people to serve on the UIB. Well, first of all, it would meet only at the direction and request of the city council on various specific issues or topics that you wanted the UIB to address and advise you on. It would be composed of 7 members, but 2 of those members would be from the Economic Development Corporation Board, 2 of the members would be from the Parks and Recreation Board, 2 of the members would be from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then the 7th member might be a citizen who is not a member of an advisory board or a commission. So if you had that kind of a makeup, the board would meet as it's now drafted at the call of the city council, and at the request, the council would name the chair and vice chair of that board. And there is a provision in it, the way it's drafted again, that no member of the council could serve on that board because it's going to be advisory to the city council. So that's essentially what's there. And just as I was looking at the list of people who currently serve on the UIB and who would meet this kind of criteria, it's certainly conceivable that you could appoint people from each of those 3 different boards, 2 people from each of those, and a citizen, and still have at least 4 and maybe 5 members of the current UIB, current members, back on that board. So you'd have some consistency even as we're changing the charge to them. So that's what's in your packet, and it's there for discussion purposes. And if you have any questions about it, I'd be glad to answer them. And Mayor, you and I have had some discussion about the reason for doing this.
All right. Well, so Linda, you have any questions?
You know, I think-
Sandra?
No.
Chris? Everybody okay with what we have in the packet in terms of the changes? I mean, one of the reasons is that the UIB is a board that meets on a regular basis, doesn't need to, but should meet whenever we need them to meet. And we want people that are engaged, obviously, people who have been involved on the boards may have a better idea of where the city's at. Yeah.
Right, I think that's the intent, is that when they do need to meet, there'll be people who have been engaged in the things that are going on in the community already, but that might be affected by the charge you've given them on a specific project. So if this meets what you had thought about doing and that we had discussed, we'll final that in the form of an ordinance amendment and bring it back to you probably at the November meeting.
Okay.
Hey, George, are you thinking we would just open up the 7th seat like we would for any other board and let anyone who's interested apply?
Well, I think the way this is written, Chris, you'd be appointing all 7 members and 2 alternates. And there are obviously citizens who are currently serving on this board that aren't serving on anything else that have a year left in their term. So it's very possible that you could appoint those, but you just need to pick the 2 from each of the other 3 boards that you'd want to serve. And at least 3 of those, and probably 4 of them that are currently serving on the UIB also serve on those other 3 boards. So you're going to have some continuity, or you could have. But we could place this ordinance on the agenda at the next meeting and then have a place on the agenda as well for you to make those appointments
You mean in November?
in November.
Yeah.
Not at next week's meeting, but yeah.
Okay. Everybody good with that? All right, let's move on. Impact fee study, 5-year update. Larry Hoover.
Hello. The last impact fee study was completed by Friesen Nichols in 2016, so the time is now to be looking at the new impact fees. It's a 7 to 9 month process, requiring several meetings with council and an impact advisory council that will need to be selected. I suspect the UIB board would be perfect for that aspect. So you received a lot of information in your packet and a slideshow from Friesen Nichols. We're looking to ask Friesen Nichols to complete the study again, so I will open this up for questions.
Questions about impact fees? George, would you explain just what impact fees do?
Right.
What's the purpose?
And that slide presentation is somewhat old, but it really describes what the purpose of impact fees are. And I know this is an expensive study, but it's one that's required to be done every 5 years. But essentially, impact fees were created by the legislature in about 1987, I think, but at the request of developers primarily, because they didn't like the way cities charged them for pro rata charges on roads and highways and water and sewer facilities. They didn't think that was fair, and the legislature agreed. And impact fees were created in order to give cities an opportunity to charge a fee to new residents coming into the community, new development that was creating the demand for expanded facilities. It's the new folks who are moving into neighborhoods and subdivisions that are creating the demand for more water transmission lines and more sewer lines and wider and better streets and with more capacity. So the intent is, rather than having the people who live here today paying for all of that cost of those improvements, to cause an impact fee to be charged on new development that would allow them to help pay at least part of the cost for those expanded facilities and take some of the burden off of the current taxpayers of the city, or ratepayers in the case of water and sewer.
So when it says that it has to be proportional, how do you define proportionality?
Well, that's part of what the study's going to be, what the study will determine, and it's a relatively complicated procedure to determine what that is. But again, it's trying to determine what proportion of the cost of an expanded or new facility is attributable to the growth that's expected to come into the community.
And what's our total impact fee right now for a single-family house?
That is $5,105 per service unit. That would be roadway, street, and water. Roadway, water, and sewer.
So with the high being up in Denton at 12,000, the low being at Carrollton at 750, it looks like we're roughly in the top 12%?
Actually, on the last page, you have that
Yep.
scale. We're between Bibb Water Authority and I think it's Crowley.
Cleburne.
Cleburne, yes. We're right in between those two. About midway.
And there's a point at which, once you determine what the cost is of the CIPs that you develop through this study process and what the fees would be, the council has some latitude in what percentage of the total amount that could be charged you actually want to charge the
law is
single-family equivalent units.
The law is 50% unless you do a finance study, which would be quite expensive, and I'll let Lakita speak to that if you need to. But typically, we accept a 50% as the rate.
But that would all come out in the study that Friesen Nichols would do if we bring this contract. It'll determine. And the big and the important part of this is it also results in a revised, updated capital improvements plan, and I mean impact fee capital improvements plan, because you can only spend those monies that you collect on projects and that are identified in the capital improvements plan for impact fees. So if we have the need in the last 5 years, have identified needs that aren't in the current CIP for impact fees, we want to be sure they get added in so that when we collect impact fees, we can use them for those projects.
When they talk about it can be also pay for required system updates, what type of system updates are you talking about?
It will have to be listed in your impact fee study. You're looking at upsizing of lines to cover additional capacities or roadways.
Or pumping stations, pumping capacities or lift stations to accommodate growth.
So would that be like over on Collette Sublet, where you're looking to expand the line to a wider line from whatever it is now to a 12-inch water line, if we go in there?
If it was identified in your impact fee study, yes, that could pay for that. It is currently not in the current impact fee CIP.
But if you wanted to widen, say, what's the road, Mansfield Cardinal Road that goes down behind your house? If you wanted to widen that to 4 lanes, just as an example, and I'm not suggesting we're doing it. But if you needed to do that because of the expected capacity that's needed for growth, then the capacity, the widening, the addition of a lane in each direction could be paid for with impact fees because it's there and it's being done to accommodate growth.
George, would the idea be to implement the study and then use that answer when doing the 2021 budget? Or was it going to take further than that to have the study completed?
Well, it'll take several months to do the study. I
7 to
think
9
7
months
to
is
9
estimated.
months. So hopefully we'd have it done before we do get into the CIP for next year. But it will help us identify if we expect to collect $100,000 in impact fees, what projects we'd want to spend it on, and are they included now in the new CIP? It's the reason we want to get started on it now, because we would like to have it done before we start the budget process next year.
So again, so if, like, say down New Hope Road, if that developed into residential, you'd use the impact fees to help build the new water sewer line, the new road?
You could, yes.
Yeah. And right now, I know it has water and sewer, but doesn't have we have a park dedication fee too, right?
Yes, it's $1,200 per residential lot.
Okay. And that's included into our 5,100 total?
No, that's just for impact fees.
Okay.
Park dedication fee is a different fee and will not be
Yeah,
reflected.
parks are not impact fees.
Okay. Why aren't parks impact fees? I mean, you're putting an impact on everything else.
I don't think 395 allowed impact fees per se for parks. You can have park development fees, and you can have the fees we have, but they're not identified as impact fees strictly for new growth.
Yeah, because you would have a park dedication fee because you're expecting the new growth will need additional parks. Therefore, you charge them a fee so you can acquire more parkland.
I mean, the rationale's the same.
Yeah.
They're both exactions. But the impact fees, you gotta go through this labors process at 395.
Right.
Your park dedication fee also allows them to donate land for parks.
Right.
Which waives the fee for the lots.
Okay. Any other questions?
Again, if council is inclined to agree with the recommendation that we proceed with that, we would bring a contract back for consideration.
Yeah, let's do it. Have to do it.
Oh, and I guess, and Mayor, if I could, one other thing is the cost of the study is impact fee eligible, so we can use impact fees to
Pay for the study? That makes sense. All right, discussion of regular items on the agenda. Anybody have a discussion item?
The STW contract, it was saying that it was for 3 years, but in the contract, it's listed for 4? Is that correct?
If that's the case, it's the first mistake Lakita's made since she's been here.
And I didn't make that.
Oh, okay, it's not her fault.
Okay, so I believe the contract that we provided you with in the packet was before it was redlined and kind of updated. And so I think you had a new one on your dais this evening.
You may have a new one here that corrects the
So-
home rule
Yes, it
issue
corrected
that
a
you'd raised,
mistake
Linda, and
regarding home rule also. But if you look at the attachment at the end of the contract, the one that's highlighted, it is for the 3 years.
Okay.
And so It's only $16,425 per year, but since it's for 3 years, collectively, we wanted to bring that to council. We've been paying STW, of course, every year for the fee. Lately, it's been going up. I believe the last time we had a price increase of over $2,000. And so since we don't have any plans to change financial software anytime soon, we were thinking that we would just lock in this price for the next 3 years and save a few thousands if we could. So that was the purpose, and STW is just kind of going through their participating cities and getting all their contracts updated and finally offering the option to lock a price in. And so I wanted to take advantage of that.
Lakeita, just make a note, I think what Linda was just showing me is that red line version does show perhaps a 40-year period instead of a 3-year period, but we'll correct it before we
it.
execute.
But yeah, we definitely just want to do the 3 years, yes.
So this isn't, we're not bringing in a new company or anything, it's the same people we've always used.
Same people, we're just making sure they don't go up in price on us over the next couple years.
Oh, okay. Any other questions on the agenda items? All right, well, I'd like to bring Melissa up if you could, because there's been a lot of talk about multifamily, as we know. Can you give us just an overview of the new standards for multifamily?
Sure. I've got some pictures here, I think, that I could show you, but just as a reminder, hold on just a second. A couple of months ago, the council passed new regulations for multifamily that apply to all multifamily regardless of the type, whether it's condominiums or townhomes or apartments. They all have to meet the new code, which is will result in substantially higher quality developments for any multifamily in the city. So these are some of the images that you saw before in our presentation on this. Basically, this is an example of the old building form where you don't really have a lot of a presence or a walkability, street presence or a walkability within the community. The buildings are set back from the street substantially. You have a parking lot that fronts the street. So this is an example of what would have been allowed under the previous code a few months ago in terms of multifamily. So what you passed will require a completely different building form, again, regardless of whether it's home ownership like townhomes or rental or condominiums or whatever the form is, it must meet this building form. So some of these images you may not be able to necessarily tell, are they condominiums, are they townhomes, are they apartments, and that's because they all have to meet this building form. And so the key there is that there is a maximum setback of 30 feet as opposed to a minimum setback. Parking cannot be in the front, it must be behind. You have to have forward-facing orientation. So your doors, your front doors are fronting the street as opposed to the other way around. You have to have windows and architectural articulation in each of the structures. So these are examples of developments that have come in the last few years, and I think most of these images that you see have design standards similar to what we have in our new building form for multifamily that require this kind of building form. And those areas have seen substantial improvements, substantial attraction of retail and other business development because of these developments coming in that are quality building form. And this is happening everywhere. These are in Frisco, various apartments and townhomes, and of course just down the street in Mansfield, where they're seeing a tremendous amount of growth around where this was built. And of course here in Kennedale too, these are the Kennedale townhomes that are now going through the platting process that you approved a few months ago. So that's really the key. It's just a different building form, building design, building orientation. As I mentioned, they have to have a street or public space frontage, and the primary structures are street oriented. And again, all of these are in the Metroplex that have been developed relatively recently. Key to this, no block face greater than 300 feet without an alley, a street, or a pedestrian pathway, and that's so that it's a walkable community. So this isn't just will make the buildings look a little bit better. It really affects how the entire layout of each development is done. So it must be a walkable community, connected not only within the community, but to the community around it. Parking, as I said, has to be in the rear. And bicycle parking is required. So this is a image that's in the code that basically lays out the street design, which is just as important as the building design. So sidewalks have to be wider than our other developments at 6 feet, and then you have a tree lawn or infrastructure area where you must have street trees, so it requires many more trees than our regular subdivision requirements do, and you can have on-street parking. And this is really kind of the result of all of that, meaning the building code as well as the site layout requirements for new multifamily. So this would apply to all of the cases that you'll be hearing tonight.
Any questions? Chris? Yeah, I think you had a question about zoning on Little Road.
Oh, so several months ago, I don't know why, I can't remember, I thought we zoned some townhomes on Little Road already. Did we?
Urban Village.
So where is that in relation to the case that we have tonight? They're pretty close together, right?
Yeah, the multifamily emulates the Urban Village zoning. The big difference is that Urban Village is a mix of uses. So the Kennedale Square has a commercial, 10,000 square foot commercial building on the corner, so therefore it's an urban village as opposed to just multifamily. The purpose of bringing the new changes forward a few months ago was to emulate those requirements, but not necessarily have a mix of uses.
So this is the same property?
Oh, no, what you're considering this evening?
Yes.
No, it's actually two properties to the south.
They're very close together.
Yes.
This one is by that church, the old
It's
school.
across the street
From the church.
from the church, across Potomac Street.
And then the other one was over more towards the storage.
Yeah, on the other side of the storage. Yeah. One's on one side and one's on the other side of the storage.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, well, we're going to, George, if you don't mind, we're going to adjourn into executive session pursuant to section 551.071, and make sure I don't have the other number in here. No, just 551.71. All right, we'll go into executive session.
I have no skills.
My skill is cheering for everybody.
They have to sign it before the meeting. Okay, we'll get this meeting started.
Right.
I lost my agenda. Make sure that we know that everybody's here.
Those are only for visitors form. I'm holding the other ones until I get the rest of them.
Okay. I can ask. Yep. Okay, good to know. Everybody's here. I saw Pastor Nelda here somewhere.
They're in the back.
Oh, would you be willing to do our invocation? And Chris, would you lead us in the pledges? Yes, sir. So let's all please stand.
Good evening to everyone. Let us pray. Oh, most gracious and heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this day, Lord, for all the blessings that you give to us. And Lord, we thank you for this opportunity right now to deliberate and consider the business for this city of Kennedale. We thank you, Lord, for our leaders, for our mayor, our council members, our city staff, our policemen and women, our firemen. Lord, we just thank you for our teachers and everybody that contributes to the betterment of this community. We thank you, O Lord, and we give you honor and all the praise. In the strong and precious name of your Son, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Next up, the Citizens and Visitors Forum. We're sort of separating these out for, let's see here. Okay. Sweep. Members, certificate of occupancy. All right, so we'll start off with the best. Sarah, you want to go last?
Hello, we got I want to talk about the Senior Citizen Centers having their garage sale on the 25th, and we will be helping out with the senior outreach, and Pat is requesting if you can help out set up tables. She needs some help with that because most of our seniors can't do that, but it's supposed to be a good day. There's supposed to be hot dogs and different things, and my table at senior outreach, everything that we sell will be given the whole money back to the senior center. We're not keeping any of it. So it goes directly to the senior center. And then October 28th is not the exact date when I started this group, thanks to Sandra Lee. So so I go, we need to start a citizens group to help, a volunteer group to help the seniors that are shut-ins and stuff. And she looked right back at me. She goes, well, so October 28th is our one-year celebration. It's going to be at my church, at First Bible Baptist Church of Kennedale. It's not First Baptist, but it's First Bible Baptist, and it's the one right behind the Dollar General in the town center. And we're going to have brisket sandwiches and potluck, whatever anybody brings. And Sandra Lee's going to be my guest speaker because she was one of the first ones to back me. And Jen can't be there, but she sent her congratulations. But I invite every one of y'all, and I hope you will come so I can talk to you about what we plan for next year. And one of the things is we're going to try to do a buddy ride program like Elva or Elroy has started over for the aging wellness in Arlington. And I'm going to meetings when I can with her, and she's counseling with me, giving me ideas, and we're still doing the aging wellness part of it. I'm just going to have it at my meetings, and we should have a guest speaker for November. And I want to encourage our council, let's please keep on the JP as satellite. We may not get one this year or when the next one, but maybe in the future we can get one, because this area with Rendon and Everman and Farsdale, we really need that that JPS satellite clinic here. We really need that. You know, I'm one of your biggest supporters. You've been doing that, Chris, and and we just need to work on that. And now we're going to have to find another pharmacy. We need a pharmacy here because we got elderly people. I go, y'all going to say, well, we got Albertsons and Kroger. But, the people, the elders depended on the Ray's Pharmacy. Because it was close. And we go the extra step with them on the weekends to get the meds if they were an emergency. So let's try to work on getting a pharmacy here. I don't care, CVS, Walgreens, so whoever we can get here, let's work on that because our seniors need that. For all these years, my dad was one of the ones, Pat Turner can tell you, that my dad was one of the ones that helped get the Ray's Pharmacy here when he was on the city council. That's how we started. Because Mr. Franklin was getting too old to do the drugstore over there where the flower shop was by the Chevron. And my dad was one of the ones, and Pat might have been on that one too, I'm not sure. But to get that pharmacy here. And the council's going to have to work hard and help us. And if you need in the city, the citizens needs to get behind the council to get this done, because that's something we need. We need a medical center, not an urgent care, because we had one, but urgent care doesn't always take the insurances. And a free clinic doesn't always accept everybody in there. They're mainly for the ones who don't have anything, no insurance, nothing, that are very poor. So we need to work on those things, not just push more, getting more apartments in here, and cramming more people in. You got to have a medical center.
Thank you, got it. Joe Palmer.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Joe Palmer, representing CABO, the Kennedale Alliance of Business Owners. The mission of CABO is to support and amplify Kennedale's business community as a strong contributor to our city's unique community profile, while cooperating with city residents and supporting efforts to create and maintain a business-friendly city government. A couple items I want to bring to your attention. You're probably already aware of them. There is a new state law that went into effect recently. It allows people in attendance at local government meetings like this one to be able to address their local governmental body, the city council in this case, either at the beginning of the meeting during public comment or at any time during the meeting, during an agenda item. So FYI, if anybody here wants to know this, you can just simply raise your hand, or in keeping with the rules of the governing body, can fill out a form real quick on the spot. You can speak on that agenda item right there on the spot if there's something you want to contribute to. This was authored by a Democratic state representative, and I think it strikes a blow for democracy, and I think it's really a step in the right direction. And at the end of that piece of legislation, it states a governmental body may not prohibit public criticism of the governmental body, including criticism of any act, omission, policy, procedure, program, or service. That's item one. Item two is in relation to the last city council meeting where you passed the budget unanimously and you passed the rate increase unanimously. I went back and watched the video, for which I'm grateful. And I recall one city council member laying a fair portion of the blame of the current financial woes of the city at the feet of the previous council. And to some extent, that's the reason for the 8% increase in the budget this year. I would just like to point out that I think we're about where we would be even if we had this council with the last council. You might have a 4% increase last time, and you'd have a 4% increase this time. So there shouldn't be any confusion. People shouldn't be thinking that this council would have lowered taxes and under any circumstances. The third item, a lot of strong statements during the budget talks and rate talks last meeting about helping businesses, about bringing businesses in. Just want to give you a friendly reminder that there are businesses here now. I don't know if any of them are going to speak to you here tonight, but we really would like for you to support the businesses that are here now, rather than going in a direction that a lot of people view as radical, of running out the businesses that you have here because maybe you don't like the industrial, maybe you don't like the light industrial, maybe you'd rather have retail or something that looks like a South Lake. You're just never going to get it. It's never going to happen. You've got a great city here. You've got industry. You've got clean, well-run businesses. You've got manufacturing. You've got machine shops. You've got customer service. Build on what you've got. Build on what you've got. Embrace the identity that you have.
Thank you. Next up, Janice Howard.
Good evening, Council. My name is Janice Howard. I have a situation that I'm being followed by the police. I am a minister. I come home different times of the night, and the police are following me. I have a clean record. I'm a senior citizen. I might not look like it, but I am. The problem is that I've never been in a community where I'm being followed and I'm fearing for my life. What's really happening? We as a senior citizen of Kennedale seniors, not just me, but other seniors are saying the same thing. I want to know, am I going to get killed or what is going to happen? That's the way I feel. And it was a concern for me to be here tonight because they flash their lights. They don't stop me or anything, but it's the idea. Now, my question to you, is he being behind me, following me because he knows I'm a senior? How does he know what kind of car I drive? And that's my concern tonight. We as seniors in this community, we need help.
Thank you. Next up, Mary Brown.
I think the police is doing a great job. I live in a senior citizen building. They ran it all through the night, making sure nobody don't bother us. I leave 4 o'clock in the morning. They follow me out so I can be safe. And I love the police officer here. Okay? I don't have no complaint. They can follow me all night long, as long as I'm safe. It's okay with me. You know, because we don't have no crime here. We can call them, they right here. I had a snake in my house and they came and got him out. Okay, so I don't have no complaints on the police department. I think they miracles to me because they have been going to senior citizen places, other places, and killing these old people and robbing them. But right here, we can call them, they right here in 1 minute. They can follow me all night long because I can look out my window and I see them go around because we open. We don't have no gates or nothing. Anybody could come over. So I commended the police officer. I need to give them a hand clap.
Thank you. Pastor Naldo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, and to everybody that's assembled here tonight. I bring you greetings in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I just wanted to thank this community. Thank the city, the mayor, the city officials, Jeff Navarez, his organizer, for sponsoring and hosting and supporting the concert in the park, which benefited families in this community who need food. The community always steps up and helps us out. You bring food, you bring donations. Even the schools bring donations to help support families who don't have food. And you'd be surprised, it's about almost 50 families, second and fourth Tuesdays that come to receive food. So from the bottom of our hearts, our coordinators of the food pantry and mission store, Esther Dunham and Lori Sanders, and the church members of the First United Methodist Church of Kennedale. And if any of you are here from First Kennedale, just please stand so that you can also, on behalf of our church, just say thank you to this community and to this city for their support. Thank you so very much.
I'll follow up. I'll bring up Jeff Navarez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to recap from last Saturday, but before I do that, on behalf of the Rotary, we're having our second annual chili supper cook-off on November 2nd at 5 o'clock. It's our annual fundraiser to raise funds for scholarships for our local high school students. We should have a lot of auction items. Each school is cooking a chili. The fire chief's cooking a chili. The police chief's cooking a chili, right, Chief? And the last year, they were the two winners. And so I'm sure the schools are looking to dethrone them. So please come out November 2nd at 5 o'clock. I just want to recap from last Saturday, Concert in the Park, especially compared to last year. This was the first year we did vendors all day. It was a huge success. I estimate, my conservative estimation is about 350 people all day. That doesn't include the children, doesn't include the vendors. I would say, and a lot of the vendors said there was way more than that, so I'm saying between 350 and 500. The theater, Kennedale Theater Group, they did a fundraiser at 1 to 3, which was the Kennedale's Got Talent, and they managed to fundraise $1,000 for their theater next year. So it was a huge success for them. Linda's very insistent about doing this with us next year. And then on our half of it all, few things that we'll probably do different next year is maybe not have the concert so late at night, even though we love the backdrops with the lighting, it looks amazing. It is a beatdown of a day, and so we'll probably put the last headliner somewhere around 7, 8, no later than 8. So just kind of condense the day and see how we go. We ended up with 2 full truckloads, beds, 3/4 tons, full of canned goods. I'm sure a lot of you seen the pictures that Estes put up, and we're with donations and cashes and everything, we're guessing around 3,600 pounds of food that was donated last Saturday. So I thanked a lot of people involved, Lori and Ken and Lucretia, they were my staff, and they were amazing. The support from all of you who donated, all the vendors had a success, but I wanted to do a special thank you to some unsung heroes that helped last week, and that was George and the staff, Melissa, Lindy, Amanda helped, Larry and his staff, Jay. Who was that young man that worked with Jay on Saturday? Stephen. Yeah, Kenneth sometimes. And anyways, the city really supported this event, and they got a lot of things done that we could not, and I am immensely grateful of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Next up, Richard Weber.
Hello, Richard Weber, 2703 Crestmore Court, Arlington. When the agenda came out, I was rather disappointed. There were several items that probably should have been on there that weren't. Last month, the mayor had a speaker up here, and they were talking about the farmers market, and the mayor said to have it put on the agenda for the next meeting. It wasn't there. This leaves the impression that either the city manager isn't doing a very good job, or the mayor doesn't really care, one or the other, I don't know. The second item was there was an IT RFP that the city put out, and they had their bids come in Friday. An open government would have had a discussion item, an overview of what the problem was, to tell the council members in the public what was going on at the RFP. Again, there's nothing. And the third item is the city manager's contract is up in less than 6 months. It would seem like you would need to start acting on that one way or the other. If you need to get a replacement, you need time to get a replacement. And next city council regular meeting will be less than 4.5 months before the end of the contract. So again, I was surprised that wasn't on the agenda, and you would seem that you would need to have that pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you. George, would you like to respond to some of these factual things? Why isn't the farmers market on there?
Mayor, we have been doing some research. There are a number of questions about the farmers market and what's allowed now that we're putting into a written report to the city council. That's not finished yet. There are some things that I think need to be included in it that were not in the draft that I've seen so far. And we've had staff meeting with the state health department, with the county health department on those issues. Frankly, it just simply wasn't ripe to be on the agenda this quickly. My intention is to have it on the agenda for discussion, if you still want it, after you get the staff report at our November meeting.
And the RFP for the IT?
I can't respond to that. I'm not sure what he's.
I think he's talking about the services that we just got the 3-year contract to the extent. Is that right?
No, I don't know that. No, I don't think that. I think he's talking about our intent.
I believe he's referring to the IT services, the contractor that we currently use, IntegraLink, the company that we're using, and there's an RFP out to solicit responses from other firms.
You might want to speak up a little. I don't think I could hear you.
We put out an RFP to solicit responses from other firms who would be interested in providing IT services to the city of Kennedale.
And if that's a contract that needs to come to the city council, it will be placed on your agenda when we've had time to evaluate those proposals and it's time to bring it forward. I have not even seen the proposals at this point.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, that's why it's not there. And contrary to belief, we have been discussing, I have been talking to George about having a discussion about a city contract, just waiting for some more data to come in, and I'm hoping we're going to do that in November. So, logical explanations for each of those. All right, next up, Lori Sanders.
Laurie Sanders, 208 West Fifth Street. I am here to announce and invite everybody here and everybody up there to come to the Fall Sweep, which will be this Saturday in Town Center Park here. Registration is at 9 a.m. You can see Miss Vanita and register to work. And we're going to cover the city up and down the parkway and pick up all the litter. Pictures will be made with Litter Lady herself is here. Wave to everyone, Litter Lady. And so we need help. We can't pick up all the litter ourselves. So we would like to invite everyone. The council is known for picking up trash in the city with us. And so we really want everyone to come out, and it's open to anybody, any school group, any youth group, any Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whoever wants to come. And it's a fun day, really is. So here's the information about it. If y'all need some, you can get it when you come out. That's all. Was that right, Karen? Okay, that's all.
Thank you. Glenn Busey, is this right? Busey?
All right, I know he's not here tonight, but I'd like to thank Councilman Chad Wendell for inviting me to speak with y'all. My name is Glenn Busey. I'm the president of 1020IO. We're a software company that specializes in geolocation services for first responders and emergency management. One of the issues that first responders face every day is when they receive 911 calls from a cellular or mobile device, being able to locate those individuals in a time of crisis or need if they don't know where they're at. In 2018, over 240 million 911 calls were made nationwide, and 80% of those were from cellular or mobile device. It's imperative that when seconds count and lives are on the line, that we have the ability as first responders to accurately and effectively locate individuals in need. And that's where 1020 comes into play. 1020, we provide an online platform for first responders that enables them to, once they receive a phone call from someone from a mobile device that doesn't know their location, they can simply locate that individual by sending them a text message. The way that this works is when that caller receives a text message, there's an embedded link or URL within that message that, when clicked on, asks them if they want to share their location with first responders. The second that they click that link and select OK, first responders can now see in real time with an accuracy down to 4 meters on a Google map the location of the caller. And a good example, I think, of this in use would be an individual maybe driving home late at night. You see a car failing to drive in a single lane. You believe that the driver may be impaired, possibly intoxicated. You call 911. Right now, there's a 3 to 5 minute delay from that initial 911 phone call to the time that that information is given to an officer in the field to respond. With 1020, we can cut a text message immediately and start live tracking that initial call from the second that it comes in, and provide and get rid of that delay and provide officers the ability to see in real time exactly where that caller is and try to stop the individual that may be an impaired driver and potentially save lives. I was very pleased to be able to speak with you all tonight. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have or provide a live demonstration of the software. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Iris? There you are.
Hello, everyone. Last time I was here, it was on a lighter note. This time, I want to talk about some things very candidly that we've been going through as business owners. And the first thing I'm going to do is read you 3 emails. The first one is the one I sent to Sandra Johnson after she came into my business in front of 2 witnesses, an employee at the post office and an employee at the Valero gas station, yelling and telling us to shut down our business, and said that she never said that we could ever do any type of food handling in our business. And it says, there is an email I still have where you said we can prepare ready-made food, because there was also another business doing the same exact thing called the Tea Room. You also said we can prepare it at our home during our last visit. Can you please explain why you have decided to change this? That response was, the business that was doing that was only doing food, not 2 different businesses in one, and just so happened to be located inside the Antique Mall. There's also an email here from Megan as well, too, in the same email.
Can you back up just a little bit, because you're getting a little bit of fuzzy on the...
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the last
Much better.
email that I received was from Megan as well, too, where she talked about general retail, and then she asked me what was the extent of food handling. Now, in our CO, during our walkthrough, we had firefighters that was there that saw booths inside. You guys have watched us grow in this city. You guys saw us serving food in a pit on the side of a building. Most of y'all up here have eaten, including your family members as well, too. You guys gave us approval to grow our business and to start a kitchen, and we were not able to finish. And then you shut us down completely. Melissa here sent the health department on us through email. I saw the letter. And then once they gave recommendations of what to do, which we could have started business again that day, which was just a hand wash sink from Lauren and Jennifer, who came to our business to inspect us after you guys sent the police and after you sent numerous letters. They said we could start business, and you guys denied it. And George, I went and talked to you, and you ignored all the evidence that I gave you. And you said that Sandra Johnson did not say we could ever serve food. I am upset because we have been treated like criminals. You guys have made it seem like we were doing business that we weren't supposed to. It has been public since day one on our Facebook. You have shared it on your Facebook. Everybody has been sharing it, and I don't appreciate you guys keep coming to our business and treating us this way. It's not fair when I look in the system and I see that businesses that are related to the city do not have their health inspections through Tarrant County. Yes, Red Roadhouse has not been inspected by Tarrant County, but you guys own that building. But what about also the temp food establishment permit that I was talking about with the farmers market that I'm asking for you guys to do? Nobody did that for the events that happened with the city. And I asked Lauren, and she had not heard about the farmers market, by the way. So what I want to happen at this point is I need everybody to start being honest and be where you are supposed to be. You as council members are supposed to support us. You are supposed to help us. And then you guys should be helping us business owners as too. You guys shouldn't be coming at us and making us feel like criminals every day and sending the police all the time. It's ridiculous. And then we got other employees. I had 4 employees from the city office in one day in my parking lot, and the police officer saw this woman here taking photos where she admitted out loud and said that she was taking photos of a fence. That is not her job. She is not supposed to be there. So what is this intimidation tactic that we got going on here? And why is it happening with my business when all we're trying to do is do the good thing and try to move forward? See, Lauren and Jennifer had already heard from us because I had already contacted them before they showed up in our place of business for inspection, and they were amazed at how clean it was. But you got other businesses around here with no follow-up, and they got rodent issues. So please, all I'm asking for you guys to do is be fair, recognize what you told us you were able to do, and work with us. That's it.
All right, thank you, Iris. Next up, Lord Vader. You're the second one.
Good evening, I'm Pat Vader, 801 Pennsylvania Avenue in Kennedale, Texas. I'd like to caution the council as they prepare to consider more high-density residential projects, townhouses and apartments. I'd remind you of the concerns that we had in Arlington that they faced in the 2000s for decisions they made regarding apartments and multifamily projects in the 60s and 70s. They had deteriorating projects, lower home values, the impact on school was significant, and eventually they had to purchase properties for demolition. First, I suggest that you limit the number of units in the citywide. Insist that what units that are built are Class A facilities with very various amenities. Third, I think you need to study the traffic issues around the surrounding projects. For example, I know that you've approved a project on Little Road, 120 or 140 townhouses, I don't recall, as well as more single-family houses south of the high school. The impact on Little Road right now at 287 and 20 is significant, and they're going to require some type of traffic signal at some point, because I frequently see fender benders and accidents at Pennsylvania and Little Road. I encourage you to proceed cautiously and thoughtfully. We probably won't have the money to purchase deteriorating projects in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All right, so that's everybody. Now, I don't think anybody else signed up to speak. That's it for that item, the Visitors Forum. So we're going to move on to updates from the City Council. Chris?
I also want to commend Jeff and Linda and everyone who's involved in the concert in the park. It was a very good event. I saw people coming and going all day, and we had a great time. I want to thank everybody who was there. I saw a number of people from the city staff, and Councilman Lee was there. Earlier in the month, my wife and I also attended the quarter auction for Abel's Front Porch. They're having another quarter auction here in a few weeks, and if you don't know what that is, get with Lori or anyone from First United Methodist Church. It's a good time to have some fun and meet some new folks and help a cause. Each month they're going to raise money for a different cause. And then also attended the Kennedale's Got Talent, which was some pretty amazing acts at that the other night. So had a really good time. And if you missed that, put that on your calendar for next year.
Sandra?
And I want to give Jeff a shout out too. He has been doing a great job with Concert in the Park the last few years, and you know it grows every year, and it's really amazing the people that come out and support it. I also want to thank Sarah for the work that she does. The seniors need a lot of help here in Kennedale, and the work that Sarah does is making a real difference in their life. So I just want to tell her thank you, and you know keep up the great work.
Linda?
I attended the concert in the park. Very good job, everyone involved in that. And also the quarter auction. It is a good cause. And like Councilmember Pugh stated, each time they have that, there will be a different charitable contribution that it supports or it's going to go towards. Also attended the YAC meeting in September. And that was real fun to do. I just sat back and was real quiet and watched our youth in action. It is an amazing job. Thank you, Leslie, for doing that. It's real important to instill those values in our youth. And I think their major issue that night was choosing a color for their T-shirt.
Wow.
And that's all I have.
All right, well, Josh Alpton's not here tonight. He's down at the Guadalupe River doing harsh swiftwater training, which is, he's going to be going all long into the night doing that. But he wanted me to read. I can't read everything, but I can read. He said that over the past 2 months, he's attended multiple meetings with wonderful groups such as the Rotary Club. He's become somewhat involved with the school with more than he thought he would be, and he's very proud to announce that with the collaboration of Chief Brown, Delaney, Patterson, and Arlington Fire Department, we've implemented a new reading program called Blazing a Trail for Literacy. 2 children from each grade level will be rewarded with a ride to school in a fire truck for the most hours read. It's a super cool program, and he's excited to see this take off. And he said, please continue to email him with any concerns you have, and he's willing to listen. All right. Next up, announcements from the city manager.
There are a couple things I'd like to echo what some of the others of you on the council have said, and commend Jeff and the organization of the concert in the park. I have declared that the next time I'm organizing an event, I'm going to ask Jeff to be in charge of the weather. That was a beautiful day, and the concert was wonderful. A couple of things to announce. I know that the park board has elected their chair and vice chair. David Deaver has been elected as the chair, and Jeff Navarez as the vice chair. So the council and the public is aware of that. And not listed on my report in your packet, but the KKB, the Keep Kennedale Beautiful, also elected their officers. And Lori is the chair, and Kenneth Michael is the vice chair of the KKB. So Lori Sanders and Kenneth. And, Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for today.
All right, well, let's see. I attended the One Safe Place fundraising gala on Sunday night. We raised about $50,000 to send kids to camp. It takes about $250 to send each kid to Camp Hope, which we will do in the first week of June. I finished my term as the chair of the Tarrant Regional Transportation Coalition Board. I am being succeeded by Mayor Jeff Williams of Arlington. And I also attended the Concert in the Park, and really, I think Jeff and that group are actually bringing back Art in the Park in some way. There was a lot of features there, a lot of good food, and a great turnout. So, and some really good talent. If you haven't seen Phil Wallace sing, you need to go see Phil Wallace sing. He's really good. And then I have to proclaim November 2nd, 2019 as Arbor Day. So let me read this proclamation. Whereas in the state of Texas, February 1889 was the first Arbor Day celebration, whereas trees play an important role in the ecosystem in which we live by reducing the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cleaning the air we breathe and the water we drink, producing oxygen, producing habitat for birds and wildlife, and reducing heating and cooling costs by moderating temperatures, whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy, and urban and community forestry is an essential component of a healthy future for the city of Kennedale, whereas the city of Kennedale and the Keep Kennedale Beautiful Commission have partnered together to plant a tree at Sonora Park in support of Arbor Day Foundation and Tree City USA programs. Now, therefore, I, Brian Johnson, Mayor of the City of Kennedale, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 2nd, Arbor Day in Kennedale, Texas. Invite all residents to attend the tree planting hosted by KKB at 10 a.m. in Sonora Park, and call on the community to support efforts to protect our trees and to plant and care for our trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Congratulations on Arbor Day. Oh, okay, so we'll get down there and take a picture. How many trees have you planted in the last few years? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to stump you. Next up, we're going to do a swearing-in ceremony for police department, and we've got a sergeant and two officers, and I'm going to ask Chris Pugh if you would come down with me and give the oath, since, Chris, you're a former police officer, and this was your idea. So we're going to come down, and we're going to swear in some officers.
by example. And hold my peers accountable. To partner with the community. To make Kennedale a better place. To live, visit, and conduct business. Together with my team members. I will work to fulfill. Our mission statement. And will embrace our organizational philosophy. Of leading the Kennedale way. Congratulations.
Right. All of them? Okay. My glasses back up. All right. Next up, we have the consent agenda. Does anybody want to remove anything from the consent agenda? No?
There were just a couple of corrections on the minutes,
Okay,
but
well,
nothing to remove, yeah.
yeah, which minutes?
September 13th, the 2:30
Okay.
PM one. On the motion for the TERS board, I believe, it says motion was approved unanimously, and that was the one that Councilmember Pugh had abstained from. And the corrected minutes are in front of us.
All right, so can she just make an amendment to that and still pass the consent agenda?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to make a motion with that amendment? With that
Yes.
change?
Yes. Does he have anything?
She just did, and you have the corrected minutes in front of you.
Okay.
So
I would like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented with the 2 corrections to the minutes.
All right, second? All those in favor, please enter your vote.
Oh, I forgot.
I don't do anything.
appointing Caitlin as P&Z vice chair.
Who? Okay.
Caitlin.
Is that right?
Please raise your hand. We'll figure it out the next one. I think, okay, there we go. Passes unanimously. All right, great. All right, down to decision item. Consider Resolution 561 adopting amended City Council purchasing policy.
Mr. Mayor, Lakita will address that item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We're bringing the purchasing policy up to be amended this evening. We were only recommending one change to the purchasing policy, and that would be to restore the city manager's purchasing authority to $49,999. And that was in place prior to 2 amendments ago when it was lowered to $25,000. So with this amendment, I've included what some sister cities are doing as far as their purchasing limits for their city managers and their council level, as well as some information about their budget size and their population size. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about that amendment.
Is there an advantage to doing this?
The advantage would be, I think, a better relationship with vendors. We wouldn't have to wait to get certain projects done. Things that decisions have already been made on, we can move forward with them internally without having to take the extra step and bring it to City Council. But at the same time, we would still be commensurate with what other cities our size are doing and bringing those contracts that are above the $49,999 to council. So it could expedite projects that that the city needs to get done and have already decided to move forward with without that extra step.
Just an additional comment, Mayor, this is also intended to increase the efficiency of the operation, and it is clearly consistent with what the statutes of the state of Texas provide. So it would, as with many other things, would be operating consistent with the regulations of the state.
All right, well, I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 561.
Maybe you got a couple speakers.
What? That's speakers on that?
Couple speakers on it.
Oh, Richard Weber.
I ask the council to vote no on this item. The city manager has to be held accountable. There's too many transparency issues with the city. September last year, the city council was presented the Safe Routes program. October, they approved the funding of tax money to pay for that program. Well, in September of this year, we find out, only because of a question about the budget, that the city manager did a bait and switch. This is transparency issue. That's a transparency issue. The staff report last listed other cities. I wonder how many of these other cities rose their tax rate this past year. In essence, the city manager is spending more and more money, and now he wants to lessen the restrictions so he can spend even more. I ask that you vote no on this item. Thank you.
Hold on a second, Richard, because we can ask you questions in the public hearing. So if he is being allowed to write contracts for things that the city council has already approved, that's the only thing he can write contracts for, items that we have approved, how is that not a check on him?
It's the difference is that it's the same difference whether it's above 50,000 or 25,000 is the answer to your question.
Well, I mean, but
the difference is to get the council approval when it's above 25,000 instead of 50,000.
Even at 50,000, it requires a council approval. So how does this, I mean, I'm trying to follow you. How does this not hold him accountable? Because he can't go write a contract for $49,000 without the project being a council-approved project. All it does is take a step where you get the project done faster. He's being held accountable because he can't go make up a contract. It has to be something the council has approved previously as a project.
For example, we've heard earlier this year that the city staff has gotten some new equipment, graphic type something, whatever. Chad asked about it last month. Now, I don't remember that being in the new programs, and yet he's done it. It's not in the budget. It wasn't in the budget as an item, a new program item, and he's done it.
I'm not sure which program item you're referring to.
It wasn't a program item.
No, but what item are you talking about?
Chad, at last month's city council meeting, asked about graphics, a graphics machine or something staff has gotten.
Mm-hmm. George, you remember that?
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about. If you
we could look up the last month's meeting. I can give you specific.
You'll be back here next Tuesday. Can you come back?
Yeah.
A plotter? Was that the question?
All right.
Yeah.
And it would be something that if the funding was available in the budget, right now, if it's under $25,000, I have the authority to contract to buy that, as long as the funding is in the budget. That's consistent with state law. It's consistent with the budget that the council adopted. And when the council adopts that budget, they're approving that spending plan and asking me to manage it.
So, and then the other thing I want to address is to go back to the Safe Routes to School. Melissa, you're here, aren't you? Yeah, I can see your hand behind you. Will you explain why the delay is for the Safe Routes to School? Thank you, Richard.
The short answer is TxDOT. Basically, we're working with TxDOT on the median that was proposed when I first came here, and that's created a lot of consternation on TxDOT's part. And because of that pushback, we had to continue working with COG, and we got delayed from last year's funding cycle. So we've worked through all of those issues and have recently actually had a conference call with COG, and that project is moving forward. So we expect the design to begin by the beginning of next year.
And so the medians were designed so that school children could cross a little bit safer?
Yeah, it was not only the median, but all the sidewalks
Right.
in Crestdale, which we don't want to hold up for the median. And so that was kind of the back and forth that we had with them. And so we did work through all of that, and that, project will be proceeding with design work next year.
Okay, thank you.
It takes time with TxDOT and the COG.
Yeah, I know it takes time with TxDOT.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Please correct me if I'm wrong.
I will, don't worry.
I believe the median was not part of the presentation last September.
Well, but it's also part of the idea is that when you're looking at safe routes to school, when you look at a presentation, you may look at and say, wouldn't it be great if we had a median, because we have those kids at Delaney that would like to come over and use the park. And right now, as you well know, you don't want to be walking across that street with that traffic. And so one of the ideas is that you have a median there, you can get at least halfway across the traffic and a crossing zone. So I would think that that would be one of the issues about safe routes to school. Not everybody on Delaney lives on the west side or the east side of there. So it's a minor thing, I think. I think you could debate whether it's necessary or not. Sure you can.
I'm not sure it's minor either. It's what's causing the delay. But
well, but it's a delay that's reasonable. It's not a bait and switch. Okay, so that brings me to Sarah Johnson. You signed up to speak.
No, I didn't mean, I meant not to speak, but
Okay. Okay, so do you not want to speak? No. Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm good with that. All right. Look, I've got like 500 sheets up here. I can't keep track. All right, so that brings us, I think that's everybody that wanted to speak. Did anybody else want to speak on the purchasing policy? I know it's not a really exciting item. So then I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 561. Yep, I can't make it. Oh, you want to come up here?
That's the question. What was the limit for it to begin with? You guys are talking about the financial from 25,000 to 50,000, correct?
Well, originally, going back, for most of the history of the city, it was 50,000. Then you had new council and said, no, we want it 25,000, which means that what it does, it means that the council has to go back and have a lot more agenda items based on those things, rather than saying make it 50,000 so he can cover a lot of the minor details. I know you think 50,000 is a lot of money. Lord knows it's not in city government. I always point out we built a bathroom down at Sonora Park and it was $169,000 for a bathroom. So it's easier for once the council has approved a direction that we want him to go, that he has the ability to sign the checks rather than having to come back after we've approved a direction and say, I've got this check I need you to approve for me to sign. But you want to have some limit on it. And most cities have a limit about $50,000. And so we're just lining up with what most cities do. That's all we're doing. Does that make sense? Well, I am a teacher occasionally. That's my day job. All right. Did I get a motion or not?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 561, amending the city's purchasing policy
You may have,
as presented.
give me a second.
I second it.
All right. Any further discussion? Then please enter your vote.
Well, I don't know where my deal went. There.
Item B.
Mine is blank. Yeah, it's blank. I don't know. Is it over here? Maybe it's over there. Oh, sorry. There it goes. There it goes.
Are we good? Two 210. Motion passes 210. Next up, item B, 3-year contract with STW for financial software.
Mayor and Council, we're bringing forth this item because the city has used STW for its financial software reporting for several years, and we are very satisfied with the company and don't see any immediate need to change. And so in looking at the prior billing that we received from STW, we see that periodically they do increase the fee for us. And in the past couple years, from fiscal year 17 to 18, for example, their fee increased about $2,300. And so what we're asking for tonight is to actually just lock in a rate for over the next 3 years so that we will not experience that increase. And that is actually only an annual cost of $16,425. But because we're asking to extend for 3 years and city manager limit is $25,000, we're bringing it to council tonight. So the goal is to possibly save up to $6,000 over the next 3 years.
All right. I see Richard Weber has signed up to speak this. He wasn't sure whether he was supporting or in opposition. You're usually not that waverly.
Well, honestly, sir, it's because there wasn't enough information for me to make a decision on the staff report. Now, I did just learn that it went up $2,300 the year before this year that just passed. But what the issue is the staff report, in essence, makes an argument that it's going to go up $2,300 a year, saving you all this money. Well, $2,300 a year is, they called it average inflation increase of $2,300. Well, that's over 15% of what we just paid this current year. If I'm in a position like yours or the city manager, that would sort of raise red flags, and I would be questioning whether we do actually want to keep it and maybe possibly change. I'm not saying I don't have enough information. I mean, what I'm saying is I don't have enough information. I'm not saying to change, but I would have at least done the groundwork. I mean, when you were asking these other cities about their previous item, or the new finance director came from another city, I don't know how much they paid for their software. But if you're trying to tell me this thing's going to go up $2,300 a year, I'd start looking into some other software to see if maybe I do want to change. I'm not suggesting that you do change. I'm not saying you vote against this. It's just the way it was worded makes me very cautious. And if this, I mean, converting is a pain in the neck, but if it's needed, you need to do it. And that's my concern.
Richard, I think if I'm not mistaken, hold on, Lakita, isn't it that we're fixing, there will not be an increase for the next 3 years under the contract?
Yes, there will not be an increase over the next 2 years, and to address a new software. If we were to implement a new software, it would cost anywhere between $50,000 to $75,000 to switch from STW to a different software.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so I need a motion to authorize the city manager to enter a 3-year contract with STW.
I'd like to make a motion to
Wow, now
authorize
suddenly
the city
everyone wants to
manager to enter a 3-year contract with STW for financial software.
Okay, motion by Rhodes, second. Any further discussion? All right, please enter your vote. Motion passed 3-0. Does that thing go to 5? Just wondering. All right, item C. Consider Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Half Associates at a cost of $16,500 for professional engineering services to evaluate the impacts and costs associated with stabilizing the stream bank adjacent to Valley Lane in an effort to mitigate erosion and prevent future damage to the roadway. Larry Hoover.
Mayor, members, City Council, this agreement will provide for a concept design for the channel to address erosion issues along Valley Lane. The design will then be used to meet with FEMA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to start the process of assigning a project number and a manager to guide the project through the permitting process. This will provide the engineers and staff valuable information that will be needed to design, permit, and mitigate any requirements needed for the project within the floodway and floodplain of the city. Once this is completed, Half Associates will be providing a new agreement for design, to construct, and with cost estimates for Valley Lane to mitigate the erosion along the road there.
All right. Any questions about the Valley Lane?
Larry, what would you anticipate the timeframe is for the completion of the study? Would you be able to come back and give us initial?
I don't have that information, but Miss Emily Gilbert is here from Half Associates. Do you have a timeline what that would take, Emily?
I don't, but I can get an answer for you tomorrow.
How much money will that save us by going back with Half Associates instead of bringing in new engineering firm?
Well, history on this project is Half Associates is the new engineering firm. The city's engineers have been looking at concepts for several years on this project, and we haven't gotten anywhere. So I moved that over to Half Associates because they are one of the premier engineering firms in the city, in the Tarrant County area, on erosion issues. And if you remember, they presented to this council the erosion study for Winding Creek. So they're premier engineers in designing erosion issues for stream banks. And this is just a first step. After we find out what FEMA and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are going to require, that's going to allow us to design a project to meet certain specifications that are needed within the floodplain and floodways of the city. It's going to be a very long process.
Linda? So is that the reason why we did Trent Street?
That is the reason why we're doing Trent Street, to provide a second access to the Oak Crest neighborhood. If something was to happen before we get a design in place and get construction going to the roadway along Valley Lane, they'd have a second point of access.
All right. No one signed up to speak on Valley Lane. No. All right. Then I will entertain a motion on item C.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we authorize the city manager to enter into the agreement. Valley Lane project is well overdue, and I'd like to see us at least get some idea of where we're going.
Any further discussion? Then please enter your vote. Three zero. All right. Now we're going to come up on some P&Z cases. Here's how we're going to run the P&Z cases. For those who've signed up to speak, in case you're wondering, we have set up an additional council meeting at my request on Tuesday, next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. And hopefully we'll get an agreement on that, because next Tuesday, all the council can be here, not just three of us. I mean, it's a big issue. My concern was that you had two members. I mean, it could pass or deny 2-1, and that's just not really fair without a full council. But we're still going to run a public hearing. And so if I ask you if you want to wait until next week for the entire council, or you want to speak now, you can do either one. And the way we're going to run it is I'm going to have the staff do a presentation first. Then I'm going to have the developer come up and give his presentation. Then I'm going to open the public hearing. Then I'm going to try to continue the public hearing, not close it, because if I close it, then we have to republish the public hearing. That would delay us a little bit further because it has to be out there for 10 days. But we'll make sure that we continue it so we can do it next Tuesday. And then after the public hearing, then I'll have the developer come back, or the plaintiff, or whatever he is, come back, answer any of the questions that he heard, then staff wrap it up. And then what we'll probably do is do this again next Tuesday when we have an entire council. So, and everybody will get to speak 3 minutes. So I think that's the best way to do it. Get a staff report, because that gives you some information. Get the developers, what he's saying, then speak, because you've gotten some information that you may not know, and then have him respond to those, and then staff response. Then keep the meeting open and do it again next Tuesday with the entire council. Does that make sense? Everybody go over that? Yeah, okay. And so you'll have your 3 minutes, and you can see it up there, though I don't have to keep it. So when you see it to get read, wrap it up as fast as you can. All right, so first thing, KPZ 1907, conduct a public hearing considering ordinance 670 regarding a request by Trifecta Homes LLC for rezoning from R3 residential to MF. Really, we couldn't come up with something better. Multifamily, approximately 4 acres, located at 962 Corey Edwards Drive, Emerald Crest Estates, Block 1, Lot 6, 968 Corey Edwards Drive, Emerald Crest Estates, Block 1, Lot 5R, 1022 North Bowman Springs Road. Hang on a second. Lot 4R, 1028 North Bowman Springs Road. Block 1, Lot 3R, 1034 North Bowman Springs Road. Block 1, Lot 2R, and you can read it up there. 1040 North Bowman Springs Road, Block 1, Lot 1, City of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas.
They get longer.
They don't get longer. You don't. Okay, good.
Okay.
Staff report.
Can we switch to the?
And if you signed up for all three, then you get 3 minutes on each topic.
Okay, so this is a vacant piece of property, at 1020, we call it 1022 Bowman Springs primary address, but it has several addresses, actually 6 parcels right now. This is the location where the red dot is. It's near, actually has a number of uses around it, but it's near the Kennedale ISD school as well as the Fellowship Academy. And a variety of uses around there. It's about a quarter mile, less than a quarter mile off of Kennedale Parkway. So this is a request to rezone to multifamily by Trifecta Homes. And this is the first 2 cases that you have tonight are the same developer, Trifecta Homes, that own these 2 small pieces of property. It's only about 4.5 acres. The surrounding zoning has quite a variety of zoning, PDUV, the UV, which is Spiral's Gym across the street, R1, R3, residential, C2, and industrial. So it has quite a variety of zoning around it, which is not surprising because this is a commercial arterial street. Can you not hear me?
I don't know whether they can.
Okay. I'm out of cord, so. Okay. And surrounding uses, is that better? Are schools, single-family residential, commercial, and industrial. The future land use plan calls for residential. The land use plan doesn't distinguish in types of residential. It just has residential, and staff does recommend approval. Here's a closer up aerial of this site. As you can see, there's a fair amount of vacant property along Bowman Springs Road. Here's Fellowship Academy across the street. And this property has been sitting vacant for quite a number of years. This is the zoning map. There's residential to the south and east and vacant land. And of course, Fellowship Academy, there's I think a golf driving range. There's a new residential development that's gone in, Glenna Village Creek, kind of catty corner. And as I mentioned, the future land use plan map does call for residential. Here's the site with the red star. It's very close to, actually adjacent to what is recommended as urban village at that intersection. It makes sense for this type of development to be on this collector arterial street because we believe that it is a good transitional use to the variety of uses, be it commercial or residential around it. Bowman Springs is an arterial street that connects to Interstate 287 and to Kennedale Parkway, ultimately going on into Arlington. So This transitional use as a residential use, but a little bit higher density use makes sense. This meets a lot of the principles, or meets all of the principles that are listed that relate to this topic in our comprehensive plan. One is connected city. So as we talked about in work session, this will need to meet the new requirements for multifamily, which require it to be a walkable community, connected well, both within the community itself and also to the neighborhoods and streets outside of this development. Economic prosperity, promoting access to a variety of housing options. So what you're seeing tonight, what you've seen in the past months, really brings, I think, different types of housing. This particular development is planned to be townhomes. Those are, as I imagine you are familiar with, those are individually sold. They're individually platted and individually sold, just like a home is. And I think this provides an interesting option for people that are looking for something that's less maintenance. Particularly, it can serve young professionals that aren't really wanting the maintenance of a bigger lot, as well as seniors or baby boomers that still want to own their home but don't want the maintenance that goes with it. And then principle number 3, a thriving community and development of different scale centers. And I think this really applies for commercial corridors like Bowman Springs or Kennedale Parkway or Little School Road, where you have the option for some higher density development that's on these commercial corridors. This is a rendering of what the developer plans to build. This particular development is only 4.5 acres, so it's a small development, about 24 townhomes is what they're planning. This is, to put it in scale, this is about 1/4 of the size of Magnolia Hills, the single-family development that's going in currently, but yet has significantly less infrastructure. And what that equates to is far more tax dollars to the city, to the school district, with far less infrastructure to maintain. So P&Z did discuss this case and recommended approval at their last meeting with a 4-2 vote. Staff does recommend approval.
All right, we'll bring it back up, but let me get the developer up here. Is he here?
Hello, my name is Tejas Nayak. I'm one of the developer. We're planning to build this type of townhomes on 2 different parcels, like Ms. Daly says. Townhomes gonna be range between 1,900 to about 2,200 square feet each, single 3-bedroom units. And all the units gonna have bricks and stoneworks. There is no siding or anything like that. So the house is gonna be like an upper scale townhouses. And we are planning to sell those townhouses for about $125 to $145 square feet. So it's gonna be in like median range houses, probably approximately somewhere between $240,000 to $275,000 per unit. So it won't be lowering any surrounding neighborhoods value or anything like that. That's all I have to say right now.
All right, thank you. All right, so I will open the public hearing, and I only have Roy Bainey going to speak on. Roy, do you want to speak at this? Okay, sorry about Saturday. Did you just say roll tide, Chris? Okay, wow. Remember, that was Chris who said roll tide. All right, so I need somebody to make a motion for a continuance of the public hearing.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until Tuesday, the 22nd, in this location in order that all the council members can attend.
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. in this council chamber.
All right. Do I have a second? All those in favor, just raise your hand. A little bit faster. Okay, response, I don't think we, how many units?
24.
24. Any questions for Melissa?
Melissa, could you say again, the acreage was?
It's about 4.5
4.5?
acres.
Okay, thank you.
And the developer mentioned the price range. That is right at the median house price in Kennedale. These are owner purchase, so to speak, individually purchased. So it equates to roughly, for example, the single-family neighborhoods that are coming in, the same as Magnolia Hills and, Hilltop.
Make sure she gets that for next time. Any other questions for her? No? Hey, can I continue if I don't have a quorum up here? All right. So I don't think we have any questions. We'll just hold off until next time. So that brings us to case P&Z 19008. Conduct a public hearing considering ordinance 681 regarding a request for Trifecta Homes LLC for rezoning from C1 commercial to MF multifamily for approximately 2.5 acres located at 801 Potomac Parkway, MP Lamar Survey, Abstract 987, Tract 2, City of Kennedale, Tarrant County, Texas. Go ahead.
So this is currently Zone C1. This is Trifecta Homes, so the same developer as the last development. This is an even smaller piece of property, about 2 acres, at 801 Potomac, but it actually fronts Little School Road, North Little School Road. Surrounding uses are, as the last one, because this is a commercial corridor, widely varied with commercial, single-family residential. Single family is in Arlington. This property is really surrounded by Arlington. And institutional, meaning a church across the street. The zoning surrounding is C1, R2, R1, and UV and single family. The future land use plan does recommend residential, so it is consistent with the future land use plan, the comprehensive plan, and staff does recommend approval. Here's the site. I think it was mentioned earlier about the townhomes that were approved before, and they're actually now undergoing the platting process for Kennedale Square. And that, if you can see my mouse here, that location is just to the north of the storage facility, which you can kind of see that long white building. That's what that is, the self-storage. And this is the site where the red dot is, so it's just on the other side of that. This is, like I said, surrounded by a variety of uses. There's a church to the south. Just to the north, there's a variety of commercial uses along North Little School Road, and then single-family residential. So again, this makes a good transitional use from those commercial uses, for example, the self-storage building that's here on one side and then the church on the other side, a good transitional use to the residential neighborhoods, the single-family neighborhoods adjacent. Here you can see the zoning, and also this black is the city boundary. So it is surrounded by, white is Arlington. And so this is our site with the yellow star, Zone C1. This is the new UV, as I mentioned earlier, with the townhomes just to the north of this site. Interestingly, I think this development also will help support the commercial. We have struggled, I think, over the years to get retail development. I think it was mentioned earlier that retail development was never going to come. A commercial development is a part of this urban village that's planned to the north, and this development will help support that retail that will go into that commercial development. So it is just, here's the future land use plan that shows residential and is just immediately adjacent to the urban village that is shown in that orange. And then the red star is the location of this site. So it is consistent with the future land use plan. And again, I think will help provide housing for different types of folks that are looking for to purchase housing but don't necessarily want a single-family home. I think one thing I wanted to mention too about townhomes specifically is that there's been questions about maintenance and the long-term viability. Townhomes actually provide much more of a guarantee for maintenance than even single-family homes. And the reason for that is you pay quite a bit more in HOA dues. That's written into the deeds. Because the HOA is responsible for maintaining the exterior of the buildings. not just mowing the lawn, but the HOA is responsible for everything you see from the street, including the exterior of the building. So individual property owners are not responsible for that. They essentially prepay for that to happen. So it meets the same principles as the last one, connected city, meaning it's going to be a walkable development, meeting our current code for multifamily, promoting access to a variety of housing options. We have less than 1% multifamily in the city. We have very, very little option for different kinds of housing other than single family. So this helps provide that housing option. And then, of course, development on with different scale centers. I think this is, like I said, a good use for this site. This is the design. Again, probably looks familiar because it is the same developer. So they're going to do a similar type of development. This will be very small, probably 8 to 10 townhomes is all you can fit on this 2-acre site. So P&Z did recommend approval at their meeting last week, 4-2, and staff does recommend approval.
All right, we'll bring up the developer again, if he has anything to say.
Okay, so it's going to be the same concept again, and like Ms. Daly says, it's going to be about 8 to 10 townhomes, no more than that. And if anyone has a question, we're willing to answer the questions on next hearing.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I have some people who signed up to speak for this one. Daniel Van Beest, are you wanting to speak to this one, or? Okay. Man, I can remember, didn't your father come here a long time ago?
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
I live at that residence as well.
okay.
The picture that you showed, I live in the house that's our fence right there. So as you can imagine, you move into a neighborhood and you expect, if you're moving into a bunch of single home residential area, that you're gonna have a house next to you, you're living in a neighborhood. You're not expecting to come out one day and look out your backyard and see 10 windows from 10 different families looking into your backyard. I do think it's a little bit of a privacy issue. I think it's a little bit of a safety issue, and I do think that it will bring down the property value of the neighborhood. So I would ask you to consider to say no to that. It is a lot of single-family homes. People want that to be around you. And I just wanted to say my piece on that.
I was going to ask a question. Did your family used to own that property? I couldn't remember.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, you used to own that property?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I think that's the only person that signed up to speak for that one, so can we have another motion to continue the public hearing? Yeah. 10 to 12.
8 to 10.
8 to 10. You can talk to him afterwards. Talk to him afterwards. Yeah, and get a hearing aid, Frank, for God's sake. Pardon me? We had that hearing on the last one just a minute ago. No, that was the previous case. This one is on Little Road. On what? Little Road. On Little Road? Yeah. You know where the church is, right there near Potomac? Where the self-storage place is? Okay. Thank you. So I need a motion to continue?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until Tuesday, the 22nd at 7 p.m. in this location in order that all council members can attend.
All right. Any questions for Melissa? Melissa, I have a question. I mean, historically, we had looked at that as a commercial site, office space. In fact, at one point, there was a assisted living going to go in and bring in doctors, but for some reason, and this may have been 10 years ago, they got upset because of the way the design we were asking and backed out. Why wouldn't commercial fit here as well?
I mean, commercial could go in there. That's not what's being requested.
Oh, I know, I know that's not what's being requested.
I mean, there's nothing that, it is recommended for residential in the comprehensive plan because it is a commercial corridor. I mean, the appropriate neighborhood commercial, I think, would fit as well. This is where the market is going is the why. I think it's important for our zoning to have the flexibility to allow for the market and also make sure we have quality development. So we don't get to control the market and we don't get to control what does come in necessarily, but we get to control if it's appropriate and if it's a quality development. So that's where the market is headed. There's a significant demand for different kinds of housing. And the reason for that is about 70% of the population are millennials and baby boomers, and they're looking for different kinds of housing. So that's why we're seeing this type of request, and developers are looking for properties to do that.
So are you suggesting that this is the highest and best use of the land as we usually think about in planning and zoning types?
Well, zoning doesn't really necessarily relate to the highest and best use. It looks at what's appropriate given the location and the development around it. I mean, is it the highest and best use? I'm not a broker. So I think that you possibly could have commercial there as well. So I don't know the answer to that. But I do believe that it's a very high quality use of the land and it's a good transitional use appropriate for a commercial corridor in this location.
So let me get a basic question out of the way. So if somebody owns some property, and there's a lot of property owners here right now, can they come in if they're a Kennedale resident, the property's in Kennedale, and ask for a zoning request?
Yes.
Yes, and they pay the fee, right?
Yes.
And so once they pay the fee, we have no choice but to bring it to the P&Z,
Correct.
and then it comes to the council.
Correct.
Right, so it's not that a choice of that we can't say, don't bring your zoning request to the city. We have to let them to do that.
That's
correct. It doesn't mean we have to approve it.
Yeah, I don't have the option of saying, no, I will not accept your zoning application.
Yeah, so when people say, why is this coming in here? It's because people have property rights when they buy it, and they can
Yes.
ask, doesn't mean they'll get it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's market forces, which we don't control market forces, but we do get to look at whether it's what they're requesting is appropriate at that location.
Okay. Frank, you have to sign up. You can't just keep raising your hand. What's that? Well, that's not an issue when it comes to planning and zoning for cities. Cities have to look at what's the highest and best use, and that's what we look at. Yeah.
I can answer that if you want.
Okay.
Okay, so these three projects will bring approximately $900,000 every single year to the school district. That's assuming the properties never go up in value, which of course they always do. So just these developments alone will bring approaching $1 million a year just to the school district. And I should add a disproportionate amount of children in terms of lesser children. The market for these, as you've heard tonight with the square footage and with the apartments that are being proposed on the next case, these are smaller units. They're smaller townhomes, they're smaller units in terms of the apartments that are proposed, 800 square feet to about 1,000, 1,100 square feet. So they tend to have a much smaller number of children and yet a much, much higher return for the school district in terms of funding that comes in.
Are you talking about all these projects tonight?
I'm just talking about the three collectively, correct? It's about $80 million in development.
So based on those numbers, and if I remember correctly, Julie, it takes about $6,800 to educate a child. So that number is roughly 132 children.
Which you're not likely to see that, just because of the target market for these type of units. The apartments that you're about to hear about 90% of those will be 1 and 2 bedrooms. 55%, I think, is the number. I may be a little off on that, I think, are 1 bedroom. So it's the kind of units, and in terms of the price range, you're going to get young professionals, basically, that are moving there.
Okay. All right, thank you, since we've delayed that. So we're moving on to, what? Oh, we have to vote on that. Please raise your hand if you're in favor of continuing that motion. Continuing, raise your hand.
Yes.
Yeah, just raise your hand.
Sandra seconded.
Yeah, you want to raise your hand? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right. And thank you for being patient with us. Like I said, I'd like to have a full council here on big decisions. Case P&Z 19-09, conduct a public hearing, consider ordinance 682, request by Devin Ferris for rezoning from R3 residential to MF multifamily for approximately 11 acres located at 5306 Kittle Dell Sublet Road, Block 1, Lot 2 of the Vaquero Coker Edition, 5310 Kittle Dell Sublet Road, James R. Hawkins Survey, Abstract 792, Track 1L, 5308 Kittle Dell Sublet Road, James R. Hawkins Survey, Abstract 792, Track 1G, 5308 Kittle Dell Sublet Road, James R. Hawkins Survey, Abstract 792, Tract 1G, 5306 Sublet Road, James R. Harkins Survey, Abstract 792, Tract 1, Homestead, and 5306 Kennedale Sublet Road. Oh, God, I'm not reading all this. You can read it up there. There's another page of this. Jeez.
I told you.
All right.
And the rest. It's up there.
Okay, yeah, I'm not reading it. You read it. Go.
Okay, go. All right. Okay, so this is a request to rezone to multifamily for the various lots at Kennedale Sublet. This is the old Coker property. The reason for, by the way, the different legal description on the subdivision is the front half has been separated from in a minor plat for the back half. You may recall that the front half of the property was rezoned to C2 for 4 retail pad sites. The surrounding uses are commercial and single-family residential, primarily commercial. This fronts a pretty busy road, Kennedale Sublet, and sides Joplin. The future land use plan designation is urban village, and we do recommend approval. And I'll talk more about that future land use plan. So this is the site here with the yellow star. This is Kennedale Sublet. This is Highway 287. It's approximately 1,000 feet from the freeway. That is a big draw for the apartments that are being proposed here. We anticipate that the folks living here will likely head east and hit 287 to get in and out. We think that'll be the majority of the travel patterns for most of the city. We have looked at the traffic here and believe that the highway and the improved Kennedale Sublet Road, which, by the way, that's an Arlington Road, will serve this community well. So here's a little bit better. This is how fast this development is going, which I'm sure you're probably all aware. We're very happy there's Starbucks over there, and or I am. This is the Kroger development. So this is just 2 years old and shows you kind of what was there 2 years ago. So you can get a sense of how fast the development is occurring. It's really driven by the freeway here. And all of that development has really made it possible for this redevelopment. This is the site, this large site. The back part is where the multifamily is proposed to go. The front part is C2 now, and we'll have 4 commercial pad sites. And then there's more development that's under construction directly across the street. So basically, all to the north and to the east is pretty heavy commercial uses. And so this is, I think, a good layout of what is happening directly across the street. Right across there, under construction is an LA Fitness. I don't know what that is, Hat Creek, is that right? Barbecue, more barbecue. Banfield, that's a vet, I believe. Service First, an automotive place. So really significant commercial across the street from this. That is primarily why we believe this is a good use for this property. If you're going to have apartments, having it near a lot of commercial use makes sense because single family often doesn't want to be located directly across the street from significant heavy commercial uses. And then across the street to the east directly is a large self-storage facility that's under construction as well. This is an image of the front pad sites. This is not part of this case. You've already voted on that, but this is what will be directly in front of this residential development for retail pad sites, which I think we're very excited to have some of this retail in Kennedale and reap the rewards from property tax and sales tax dollars for Kennedale, because all of that goes to Arlington. So here's the zoning map. It is zoned R3. This is, I'm sorry, I'm pointing to the wrong place. This is the property with Blue Star, just the back portion. And so this front part where my mouse is was rezoned recently to commercial. And then the white part, this is all the commercial development, and that's in Arlington. So here's the future land use map. Does call for urban village. There are two different developers doing the commercial and the residential, so we weren't able to look at an urban village zoning. However, the development for the residential will need to be that walkable, connected development. So we believe it'll meet the intent of urban village in terms of the mix of uses and the walkable, better, or I believe a higher quality urban form that's now required in our code. So it is consistent, we believe, in intent with the future land use map. It meets the same principles as the previous two cases, connected city. These are in our comprehensive plan. Access to a variety of housing options. These will be market rate apartments. They're not inexpensive. These will start, I think, around $1,100 or so for a one bedroom. Just to put that in perspective, I mean, just looking at, typically they require that you make triple the amount of rent, so that's somewhere around, starting at a minimum of around $43,000 a year you'd have to make to live there as an individual renting just a one bedroom, and then it'll go up from there. So these are going to be quality housing units that will attract basically young professionals, young working professionals probably, and possibly seniors as well that don't want the maintenance of a single-family home. Development on different scale centers, we believe this helps to accomplish that, certainly. And P&Z did recommend approval on with a 4-2 vote, and staff does recommend approval.
All right, the developer here?
Just a procedural question. Will they be able to talk at the meeting next week? Okay.
Yeah, because we may have some people next week that didn't hear this.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim Maybach. I'm with Pecos Southwest Realty, 1703 North Pecos Drive, Arlington, Texas. Our company's been located there for 47 years. I've been in the development business personally for 36 years. I've had the opportunity to work on the Kroger site. I'm the one that, after 5 years, we finally got approval in Arlington to get Kroger on the site. Kroger probably spent close to $4 million in infrastructure improvement of Sublet Road itself to be able to locate there. I had the pleasure of meeting the Coker family in 2009 when I was asked to do an appraisal for their property. They were starting to consider putting that property on the market. I told them the good time to put it on the market is when the Kroger deal happens, because that site was going to start developing. That corn was finally going to come into its own with the other use. Kroger actually bought 6.1 acres in 1985 out of that corner from my client at one time, and then delayed building. They ended up building over on Cooper and breaking the development contract with the developer, co-developer at that time. But they came back to us because that is a great location for a shopping center for Southwest Arlington and for the residents of Kennedale. The area has continued to grow over there, and as Melissa stated, we were able to bring 2 months ago the C2 zoning category to put the retail uses in. Those are very appropriate, that we're not just trying to, retail in the front and residential in the back, adjoining the self-storage on Joplin. I really want to point out, and you guys, I know you all live in the area, obviously, because you have to serve on Kennedale to be here at City Council. Joplin Road, the developer is going to have to build the other half of Joplin Road in Kennedale. actually did the zoning work for the all-storage facility. And to get that all-storage facility to locate there, the City of Arlington required them to put retail in the front. So the front of that whole building, the first building you see on Sublet, is a retail leasing space. There's 3 spaces in that building for retail uses, not for storage. The side of that first building is all office. And then the last building that's down there is office as well. So that was a mixed-use development. And the height of that development and the density of it, people are not going to want to be in a residential home fronting Joplin Road and driving out and seeing a big commercial facility like that. So an apartment development that's 2 or 3 stories, combination that they're looking at building, fits in there. It's an excellent transitional use. Those people will then be able to walk right to the retail facilities that are on those 4 pad sites, because there'll be connectivity, and be able to shop there, and that's sales taxes going to Kennedale. But then they'll also have 1,100 feet to drive when they leave Joplin Road at a signal light that was put in by Kroger and the developer, over to 287 when they go to their jobs in the morning and when they come home. So it's not going to put a tremendous amount of traffic on Sublet Road going towards downtown Kennedale, unless some of them have other things and they want to go to the park and enjoy the things that you do provide in the city of Kennedale. So it's right there on the, it's in the urban village. It fits in that location, and it'll be an amenity to the city of Kennedale. It'll have high tax value. It'll be built to the new standards you guys passed. Those were very good standards, very good thought went into that. 4 years ago, I came to those meetings on behalf of the Coker family, and we gave, the Coker family and myself, we gave input into, the zoning changes and the comprehensive plan update that you went through. Urban Village is appropriate there. Within Urban Village, multifamily is part of it. Residential, you've got to have the people walking and spending money into the retail to continue to thrive, and you have to have a combination of housing offered to the public. And I think that this is a very quality development. Vaquero Ventures out of Fort Worth, they're the ones that are under contract for this property, and they have a very good track record. I've had an opportunity to work with them 5 years ago in Mansfield on 2 projects down there. And so we're working with, I think, a very good outfit. So I wanted to bring those items to your attention. Having 35 years of experience working retail right on that corner, and many other properties up and down 287, all the way down to Mansfield. And that's what I had to like to present to you this evening and explain some of that history and background. I think it's very important. And we have Patrick Pine here of Vaquero, who I'm partnering with on helping with this development. And he's going to go into a little more detail on the development, but we'll make it quick. Thank you.
Hi, Patrick Pine with Vaquero Ventures. I do have a presentation. Here, let me stick that in there. Yes, so here we go. Thank you very much. Oops. Sorry, technology. All right. Looks like it's starting to open here. There we are. All right. Just to go over the location real quick, the property, as stated before, is on right off Joplin Road in Sublet. Here's a image of the area improvements, including Sublet Road widening, which is going here right where my mouse pointer is. And this is the retail. The entire site is this area, and here is the multifamily in the back. The front of the development faces towards Joplin Road. There will be massing at the corner, and it'll really activate this retail over here. As far as walking, pathways, it's a very walkable area, so bringing a quality Class A multifamily project there will really activate that corner. This is the little image of the Sublet Road widening. We can go into more detail. Here's the old sublet here and the new sublet. We met with the neighborhood, Steeplechase, the adjacent neighborhood, a couple weeks ago and gathered all their concerns about bringing development to this location. One of the main ones was really drainage and how when it rains, given that Coker Hill, the topo on it, really carries the water back towards the neighboring houses. So with this proposed development, we would gather the water in a detention, pipe it underground to the stormwater system, and alleviate those drainage issues in that area. And it really takes a development of this magnitude to help solve that issue. And detention designs was another one. What is it going to look like? Is it just going to be a mosquito pond holding water? Well, that's not the case. Today there's more landscaped park settings, natural settings, landscape park settings. It's really more of an amenity to the residents than it is a detention, because it doesn't rain every day. Or beautiful weather here in North Texas. So in our concept design phase, really to be respectful of the neighbors, eliminate the drainage issues, create a sense of place, a really nice property, people can call home, promote urban design elements with the new multifamily form-based code. This is what we're bringing. Beautiful project that masses the street and provides sidewalks and connects to retail. Provide green space, landscaped spaces, and yes, connecting to the retail. So this project, Oak Crest here, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is located in the center of Cannondale. This is your typical old style property. You see the parking lot from the front. It's really tired. And then to the right is a project that I developed out in Scottsdale, Arizona, called Jefferson Legacy. It was a beautiful project and a huge hit. It got second place, unfortunately, in the Arizona Apartment Association Awards for Best New Construction of the Year. It's a beautiful project and very similar to what we would be doing here. Old multifamily design, very kind of tucked in kitchens, the new open concept with nice appliances. Really, your resident is a young professional that's looking for a really nice place to live and may not be able to afford a brand new home at the time. And then also folks that are downsizing and want all the luxuries of their home, but in a smaller space and one that they don't have to maintain. So as far as landscaping, this is a 3-story apartment here to the left with enhanced landscape features, nice fence, and then smart lighting design to eliminate the risk of light pollution, which will not be a factor of this development using newer technology like LEDs. Here are some screening fences proposed for the development. We share a fence with Steeplechase on 2 different sides and want to provide a nice barrier that to maintain the privacy of our neighbors. Here is a concept site plan. If you notice, down at the bottom where you see Joplin, the buildings are massed at Joplin in order to promote the urban design. And then we've also, near our neighbors, dropped it down to 2 stories so that we can promote privacy around there as well. It'll be a beautiful project. Here are the distances up here. You really can't see, but from the 2-story portion on the bottom left, 130 feet to the property line, 240 feet from the 3-story to the property line, and then 142 feet from the 2-story portion of the property line. That's on the left there. And on the top here, 127 feet from the 3-story and 65 feet from the 2-story. And there is a natural grade change here so that we've conducted a line of sight study to ensure the privacy of our neighbors. Here are the 2 site sections. The top one is on, if you look to the left of this diagram or this picture, where my mouse pointer is, that is the top, and then the bottom is this area on the west side, basically pointing from right here. So on the top, from a 3-story and a 2-story elevation, even the fence will provide a boundary from a line of sight standing, and that's without including all the landscaping in between. Same thing with the bottom one. We just wanted to make sure that our design was right and attentive to detail. These are some concept elevations from our architect. The design development phase will occur later, but these are just some preliminary IDs. And these are some recent projects that our architect worked on. Beautiful projects located throughout the Metroplex. And as far as projects that I've worked on personally, this one on the top left is Jefferson at 1 Scottsdale. It's a property I developed back in 2013. To the right is Jefferson Chandler, beautiful 3- and 4-story walk-up that's in Chandler, Arizona. And these are all more pictures of those projects. To the top right here and bottom right, this project actually won the California Apartment Association top prize for design. And this project right in the middle won first place nationally for interior design. And that is all I got for now. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you. We'll come back up here. We'll open this public hearing. And I have Claire McCartney. Yeah, you want to wait until then? Yep. Okay, you want to wait until next Tuesday? Yeah, make sure we get that over there. Sarah Johnson? Do you want to wait until next Tuesday? All right, give that one there. Okay. BJ Hall? Oh, okay. Don Coker?
I'm going to fix you guys' audio one of these days up here for you. Listen, today in my little activities, I was running around, and I had you guys on the back of my mind. I said, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And what I'm going to say, and I answered myself through my questions was how. And I use acronyms a lot, and had to for the last 40 years working. And we use a lot of acronyms in our work. And anyway, I said how, okay, H-O-W. It's honesty, open-mindedness, and willing. And that's all I know what to do tonight. I don't have all the answers. I don't have any of the answers. And so I'm leaving it up to these gentlemen. And I believe in their engineering. And just on the overview, I've seen how big that apartment complex is just behind Albertsons. It's huge. And it's real quiet over there, to tell you the truth. I go to a Sprint store, and the other day I just got out and I've become well aware of, these places that, how much room it takes, and to make a divider. And I looked at about a 30-foot grass area with trees, 8-foot fence, and they were doing some work so I could see the other side. Another 10 feet behind that of grass, and then a self-covered parking area. And it was quiet. Then a driveway, then the buildings. And you might see me out there with my wife sometime. I'm running out there, and I got 100-foot measuring tape. I'm measuring off things and stepping it off. And I said, well, no, that's a long ways. And thing is, I've written down things. I hear people with their, when they speak, I hear they speak convincingly honest about their concerns. And I can see that. But I also have my little list of solutions. And I've been in problem solving in some of my jobs. And you see an object you have to work with. Well, you also have to come up with a solution that right today we want to please you guys, please these people here. They worked hard for their homes, their property, so have our family. And I was amazed by their engineering. And I grew up, only water runs uphill at Six Flags. And so people were talking about water, how's the water going to go? Well, I can understand raising it up. And anyway, we're talking about water drainage. That's one thing. Retaining walls. They're beautiful. It could be a real beautiful and an asset. If there's going to be the A word, apartments, these people can build a very nice, I use the word beautiful, I say pretty, really, really nice complex. And if I was going to just turn it over to anybody, it would be these people. So good luck to everybody. I hope, just wish everybody well and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Hardy. Yeah, but then the next Tuesday. Richard Weber. All right, next week. So then I'll bring back up Melissa. So do we have a number on the number of one-bedroom apartments, number of two-bedrooms, and number of three-bedrooms?
I think I'd be going by memory, which I think they can answer better than I can.
So it'll be between 55 and 60% one bedrooms and studios, and then we're having three bedrooms at 5%, and then the remainder will be two bedrooms.
So about 40% two-bedroom, 55% one-bedroom, and a few three-bedrooms.
What's the total number of units? 280. All right. Any other questions for Melissa?
Can we get a copy of that presentation?
Yeah, can we get a copy of that presentation with some of those numbers too?
I'll make
Thanks.
sure you get it. I would just add, too, that we did have a very, I thought, positive meeting with the neighborhood, with
Okay.
Steeplechase, and there were a lot of good questions and concerns brought up, and the developers did, I think, incorporate, it did incorporate items in their plan to address those issues, drainage and setbacks and so forth, to try and have a development that would meet their concerns.
And have the other developers had a meeting with Winding Creek or the people over in Potomac?
No, we haven't.
Maybe we could set that up. Is that possible?
We'll try.
I see Winding Creek here. Would you like to have a meeting with the developers? Yeah, if we can do that. Georgetown people, would you like to have a meeting with the developers and express some concerns with them?
Okay.
As soon as we can, because we don't have a lot of time. If we're going to do it, we have to do it pretty fast.
Yeah, I mean, we sent out, we mailed out notices. It took a few days to do that, and then we've got
Well,
short time clock to try.
Yeah, I know we're on a short time clock, but maybe we can get some help from those residents too, because they expressed that concern to me. All right, I need a motion to continue this.
It's kind of related to all three. If, in all these cases, I assume that the developer's not buying the property until the zoning change goes through. Is that correct?
That's not correct. The first two cases, they own the property. Correct.
Right. Motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing until Tuesday, the 22nd, 7 PM in these council chambers, so that all council members can attend.
Have a second? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, now I need a motion to adjourn. Thank you.
I'll second.
And then all those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion adjourned.